All right, welcome back. Don't know what episode it is, but special guest here. We have the CEO of Total Talent Resources, Joseph Gallelli. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
Special thing, he's my cousin, so
If you don't see, they're basically identical twins. The hair, the facial hair, the nose, the
genes.
jacket. I mean,
If you like to
genes.
take after me, I'm older, so I'm going to take credit for it.
I mean, I'll take it because good genes run the family. He's not a
So-
Bakovich though, so cut him some slack there.
I am not.
We got a Arete Tequila. Edgar had me roll the R on that one. Family owned. Arete is famous. It was a famous horse that won a gold medal in 1948 London Olympics for the equestrian jumping. So yeah, that's all I got. That's the only
family-owned horse.
family owned tequila, but it was named
It's
after
a family horse.
Yeah, it was the family horse. Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Back when they were probably doing a bunch of illegal gambling. Cheers.
Thank you for joining us, Joe.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Total Talent Resources. Tell us a little bit about it. You know,
Yeah. So,
right now we're in a little bit of tricky market here. Every day's a different day, but
hey, man,
you know,
it's the nature of the business, totally fine. Total Talent Resources, so we're a workforce solutions partner provider in the Chicagoland, Texas, and Florida areas. We have markets out Dallas, Metroplex, Lakeland, Florida area, and Chicagoland market, which we've been around for quite a while. Total Talent Resources is actually a relatively new brand for us. We originally started as Total Staffing Solutions in 1997. Out of our Chicago Bridgeport office, which is still our number one office, is still in the same location since we started, so it's been there for quite a while. We've evolved, and we'll probably get into this conversation a little bit later, into Total Talent Resources from a standpoint of understanding the needs of the market and what really needs to focus on volume recruitment versus actual quality recruitment when you're talking about leadership roles, management roles, and stuff like that. So we've now become a search and staffing provider, much more so than just a staffing provider. So that rebrand happened last year for Total Talent Resources. So we still have Total Staffing, which is our contingent labor side of the business, which operates the volume recruitment. And then we have Total Talent Search, which is our direct placement side of the business.
okay.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's taken some time to get here. It wasn't something that we did overnight. It was kind of a long, drawn out process. We didn't start with Total Talent Resources, obviously. We had Total Staffing operating and we had Total Talent Search operating as separate entities. But they were called sister companies, if you want to call it that. And marketing that was very difficult, and really getting the understanding to our clients of, well, why do I have to talk to Total Talent Search people about this role versus just talking to my normal Total Staffing people? So we've umbrellaed it under Total Talent Resources, and our suite of services that we provide from hiring solutions now all falls under the same banner, and you're dealing with one brand versus two. Now we still have the operating entities, of course, but it's a departmentalized.
Do you enjoy more of the staffing or the recruiting?
I enjoy it all, man. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I was thrown into this role, and everyone in the industry will tell you, and for those of you listening from the industry, you don't go to school to be in staffing or in recruitment. You just don't.
Or sales.
I mean, or sales.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. But
It finds you.
yeah, and maybe if we have time, we'll get into my real story of how I got started. But I started in 2018 as the vice president of operations, and then now we've evolved obviously to Total Talent Resources, and that's how I got into it, man. I was in a accounts receivable management for Nationwide Credit and Collection, and beforehand,
It's
and
my first job.
it was the
Seriously?
first job.
First job.
Oh, your first job or your first? Or
Mine. It was 16.
I think I still have the picture of you with your first paycheck.
Oh yeah, it was cool. I did nothing. I did data entry. I would type in like 6 numbers, copy something from that sheet, type in another like 18 numbers, paste it into that sheet, and then like click okay. And I had like just 12 pages of just lists of numbers. I don't think they actually I was doing anything. I think they like made it up and they were just doing it.
Maybe we just created a depth.
Everyone just like, yeah, he was probably like, oh, fucking little cousin needs a job. My uncle's making me hire him. I don't know what he's going to do. Yeah, you definitely just like created something.
Yeah.
But the best part about that was I got to sit next to a guy. I forget who he was. He knew Aunt Cindy. He was a Mexican guy. He sat in the corner and he was a sales rep. He was a
You remember that?
Mark, everyone knew him because he was he had a good personality.
Great guy.
But I sat next to him and I listened to him, and I was 16, and like the way he was a salesman basically. Even though he was collecting, that's not the easiest phone call to have.
No.
Because, people, I remember him like discussing with me once. He's like, these people are behind on payments. We're calling them to remind them that they're behind on payments. And how could we collect that money? And I was just like, I learned a lot listening from him. So everything's a learning experience, no matter what you take from it. I took from that I don't ever want to do this kind of work anymore, but that interests me. And I guess that's somewhat why I am who I am today and what I do. So, but let's talk more about you.
No
So,
problem. That's all right. We're going to
The hot seat here.
yeah. So, what really sets Total Talent Resources apart from other recruiting and staffing companies?
Well, one of the problems in our industry is there's a staffing agency on every single corner, right? I mean, you go out and drive around.
We used to own one. We used to have one.
I'm sure you did, man. It flows right into your business. I get it. But one of the things that we really started to focus on is we started to go into a specialization to manufacturing and logistics, right? I mean, only focusing on what we do well is really one of the reasons why people would use us, right? So we don't just take, oh, I have a need for 4 movers tomorrow. Can you send them to me? That's not going to be a good fit for us, right? We know it's a short-term engagement. That's fine. We don't turn those away. But if it's not within our core focus of what we do from manufacturing and logistics, we're not going to be successful in doing it, which allows our recruiters now to focus solely on the skill sets that apply to those types of roles, right? So if you're in a manufacturing setting, right, we talk about different types of machine operators. You're talking about different, stamping or whatever it might be, welding positions or stuff like that. So our focus is really, even on the search side, it's within those 2 sectors more so than anything, which helps us to become a specialist in that area, right?
Yeah.
And so what we do is we'll go in and we have a couple proprietary processes that I'm not going to, talk about.
I get it.
Show. I mean,
Spill
all the beans, of course, but we've really developed some really good tools and resources that not only help our clients, but help the people behind it too. So really our focus is always to become the employer, the business partner, and the neighbor of choice, right? So, I mean, we focus on all 3 entities, right? The communities in which we participate in, we certainly are actively involved in there because we're helping them get jobs. And then we're helping the candidates to grow and develop new skills as well. We've actually launched our own new applications called Beyond the Paycheck.
Okay.
And so what that does is it allows anyone who comes to apply with us and then comes to work with us, and they always have access to it. They don't lose it even if they stop working for us. But they're able to get into this application, and we provide financial acumen training to them. We provide some of the basic skills that people need to know, right? Especially in today's day and age, where you keep your money or how you use your money is important.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So those are some of the things that we go a little bit extra than most other providers. So,
Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, and then
This is
that's
a
a lot.
big
That's a lot.
broad,
That's,
like-
I mean, that's a huge trust factor right there, too.
yeah.
Going into it. I mean, that is a lot.
What do you mean it's a huge trust factor?
Well, you're talking about, you're instead of staffing and recruiting, you're talking about from the finance side of like in the app and the application.
Helping that employee,
like,
giving them knowledge.
they're feeling welcomed almost.
Well, that's the whole key, right? I mean, again, too often in our industry, and I say this all the time, it's become a commoditized business. And that's the worst thing to say when you're talking about people.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about people, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Allen Iverson, you're talking about practice. No, you're talking about people, man. They're not a commodity, right? We want to help these people grow. And so one of our things that we focus on is where are they at right now? Where do they want to go? And how can we help them develop their career? There's plenty of good careers in manufacturing. There's plenty of good careers that you can go in logistics time too, right? But what skill sets do they need to know, and how can we coach them to get there? They might not have it when they come to first start, right? It might be, hey, you have to start at this entry level role. We're going to get you started, but we're going to coach you up a little bit. Say, and here's the career path that the client has pointed out to us that we could show you that people that we've placed are now full-time employees, right? And that's the goal. And it sounds bad from my perspective when we talk about the old moniker of temp to hire. We don't use that. We use performance to hire. So it's not just about showing up to the job. It's not just about the attendance and being punctual and all that, right? And that's important, sure. But what are the actual skills that you need to learn and producing at those levels to then be hired on full time and then to grow your career within that organization? While from our perspective, when a person converts to full time, a lot of people say, well, you lose the billing on it. That's okay. You know what? It's okay. We just help the human get a job that could change their lives. I'm not saying it will change their lives, but it could.
Yeah.
And that's really got to be the focus, right? And that's where the passion of the industry starts to come in a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think we lose that a little bit because we start to just think, oh, I have to find anybody that'll take this job. That's not the best case scenario.
They
in
look
some
at it from a
cases.
financial side. How can I get the biggest? How
Right.
can I get the money the quickest? And it's like no. It's like similar for us. It's like in our business, we are looking to help the companies grow. We don't
Yeah.
want to just okay. Here's a apparel company. Here's an HR company. Okay, but what are your pain points? What are your challenges?
Yeah.
And how can we help you take those challenges away so that you can actually run the business of why you actually got into business in the
Exactly
first
right.
place?
And kind of what you said, like, are we the right fit? You found your niche. Like, these are what we're really good at. How many times do we have to tell them, hey, I don't think we're the right fit? We get people come in like, oh, sure, we'll take a meeting. Then you learn all they're looking for is the lowest price. And then you just
And we're
say,
like, we're not the most expensive. We're not
we're
the
not,
cheapest. And if you don't want to talk to anybody, you want to talk to
yeah,
a robot. I'm like, here's 2 or 3 other companies.
sure.
If you want to talk to a human being and have real customer service, then we're your solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing in sales that people, I think it gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. Like everyone wants a sale. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Every intention behind a sales call is to get the sale.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have to know what's a good fit, what's profitable, what's going to make sense. Are you just trying to fit in from a pricing perspective? Because now you're obviously going to be just in a price war and it's not going to help from the service level. So we call it the triangle, right?
Okay.
You can have quality employees, quality service, and pricing. You can't have all 3 of those. You can only have 2 of those.
Yeah.
So, I mean, realistically, if you're giving up one side, you have to both boost up the other.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to give and take a little bit. And that's what we try and educate our teams on as well.
I like one thing that you guys do from the business standpoint, and I've read them, I think, twice now, is those supply chain talent surveys. And it really gave, I think the one I read, I loved it. It showed, what are employees looking for when they have a job? And I kind of remember the normal answer, you would always think people would be like, oh, they want more money, and it's not. There was like 4 other ones before that. I don't know if you can remember what they were, but
Yeah. So that's one of the resources that we use internally. Obviously, we have a broader market where we can survey our entire database of employees and say, what's really important to you right now, right? What are you looking for in a job? There's 2 sides of it. What are you looking for when you're looking to get a job? So from the recruitment standpoint, but then what do you look for to stay on a job? What keeps you there? So we focus on recruitment and retention on those surveys. And this year we were actually able to get a much larger sample size. So I think the first year when we did it, there was like 1,500 respondents. This year we had over 2,300 respondents. So
it's good.
and we tell them, right, like this is a lot of times it gets mistaken, like, oh, I have to answer this a certain way because I'm going to get more money or something like that. And we look, there's going to be some bias in the questions too, right? I mean, we have to understand that. But when you look at it as a whole, it was super interesting to find out that while pay has always been the number one issue, and it still is to an extent, it wasn't the top priority as far as what they're really looking for out of a job, right? And we're talking about, right? We're talking about hard labor roles in some cases. We're talking about very production oriented roles. But do people really talk to these people and find out what they want, right? And so that was our objective behind it. Let's give that data back to our clients and say, when you're developing your workforce strategy, here's what you need to focus on. And when you're talking about recruitment, here's what you should focus on. When you're talking about retention, here's what you should focus on. And what was really interesting is over the COVID time period, everyone, and I think this might be why pay was not the top priority, everyone's pay rates increased from these jobs. And there's very little disparity in those roles. Now, some companies are going to be on the lower end of the spectrum. Some are going to be higher. But the pay, it really brought pay into alignment with full-time and even on the flexible workforce. We don't call them temporaries because that's a very, yeah.
I was calling them one time. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
this company we work with uses temps. He's like, don't call them that.
I was interviewing a guy the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, I usually temp to hire, but no one says temp anymore." And I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you don't have to tell. I get it."
No.
Yeah. So it's flexible, right? Flexible contingent workforce. We call it flex force. That's what we called it. I got yelled at by our marketing team because I said, well, can we get a guy flexing and just have flex force across the chest and stuff like that?
There you go. You didn't want to be up there with your shirt off.
Well,
flex force.
I really wanted to say it was going to be me, but no, I'm just kidding. but no, so they were like, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm like, oh, okay. So it was during our rebranding when we kind of went to this whole new model, and so we don't need to go down that tangent. But
That's the same thing with us and what we've seen in the as our team continues to grow and we're hiring people in different departments. They have some questions on compensation or commission or whatever the case is, but they're like, "What what resources do you have so that I can further my career, or what conferences or associations are you guys part of?" And because they want to grow as a human being, and I'm
100%,
like,
yep,
tell me what you're good at and tell me what you're bad at so that I know that I can
sure,
provide the appropriate resources for you to help you succeed in the job. It might be we might need to train for a couple months, but I'm here as an individual to help you succeed in your position, to help you become a better human being.
yeah,
Because then overall it helps everybody. It's a win-win for the employer, and the employee
yep.
especially. And I think that's one of the most uh misread or underrated things a company that
Well,
can
I mean,
provide.
going back to the survey question, if you look at the survey respondents, and now we have it just the one that we put out was all three regions that we participate in together. But we've broken out data on individual market, like from Illinois' perspective, even down to the level of the individual kind of counties that we work in,
Mhm.
to see if there was any significant difference between it. There was very little, but it's still nice to go when we're talking Texas people, like, here's what Texas is saying compared to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So you show them the regional one and then you show them the Texas one and it starts it. But what was really interesting to your point is career development or training and development was one of the top reasons why they're looking for what they're looking for in the job, right? What's my advancement opportunities?
Mhm.
And not to say like, oh, I just want to know like how fast I can get there. It's no, I truly want to know how to escalate my career through this career progression, right? And so that was one of the ones that came up as one of the top. The other one, which is very difficult in our types of environments that we work in, is the flexibility in schedule. And that always be and I think COVID hit that a little bit, right? With the
I
work
wanna
from
work
home,
from
everyone
home
wants
for
to work.
4
Well,
days.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
I've
sorry.
told everyone that I've had a conversation with, yeah, this position we're looking to fill is 5 days a week, mandatory in person. We can reevaluate in a year, and they're like, "Oh." I'm like, "Sorry,"
Yeah,
but, like, that's what we're like, how are you gonna learn and how are you
yeah.
gonna train? I get, we can start off 5 days a week, but if you start as a new employee and you're in the office 3 days a week, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but you're doing jack shit the other 2 days. There's no way you're reading a training manual at home.
Well, you're missing out on the opportunity to build team rapport.
That's the
Exactly.
biggest thing.
It's
Culture.
it's a water cooler talk.
Culture
Yeah.
walking through. I mean,
Dan's got the coffee
if
machine
I
behind him, so he gets the benefit of,
if
you know
I brought in the coffee machine and, either it's an espresso machine, first off. Either way,
I'm
I go
sorry, you're high class. I forgot.
yes, yes. If working just to step away from my computer, I'll go down to HR. They're on the first floor. I'll go and chat with them for 5 minutes. It refreshes me. I'll go back. I'll go to payroll, talk. So I think it's a great way. You need to come in. It builds culture with the people that you work with. And
and just
culture
rapport.
is and exactly, just report with other employees and it gets you in the office. Like you said, what are you doing?
No, there's no
People
way.
working from home on Friday, you're probably not doing much at 3:30, right after. Maybe you are. There's some people that do really well working from home.
Or it's a Thursday morning, or Friday morning. "Hey, I woke up, I don't feel so good. I'm gonna work from home." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Are you sure you didn't have, like, a late night last night? Like,
Just be
nice
honest, right?
dinner?"
Just
It's
say,
like,
look, I'm hungover.
at that point, I don't care. At that point, if you're just honest with me,
Yeah,
I'm like, "Alright, cool. I get it."
yeah.
Then
It's not like we haven't been there before.
yeah,
So
we've all woken up
yeah.
hungover, like,
So
Just gotta grind it out, get to
it's
work.
got to grind it out, man. Got to grind it out. No, but I mean that flexibility in work, it's impossible in a manufacturing setting,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's
you have to be.
yeah.
It's
So
that's
I'm
it
saying like I get that that's what you want, and ideally, like everyone wants to strive to get to that carpeted role, as we call the office positions within a manufacturing plant. Like, yeah, that's obviously an ambition to get there,
yeah.
but you're going to have to go through the process the right way, and you can't be. Some people have done it. Some people try to, and we've deal with this a lot from our client perspective. Like, how do we get our shifts to align to this flexible schedule? Can we do it? Can we not? Right? And I would have to think in manufacturing, it's probably the most challenging position to try
Oh,
to be
yeah.
flexible because you need to have certain people to run certain lines for production. That's just the way it is, right? So,
Pretty black and white.
but it's interesting that that comes out as one of the top things that people want when they're looking for one of these types of jobs, and it's like, yeah, don't think that's going to work, and here's why, right? And it's just
On On the other side of things, why do you think talent leaves? What's like the number one driver?
Oh
Do you
man,
think?
you could put a number of things on that. Now, say is certainly going to be number one.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
And we're talking. We actually in the survey talked about the same thing. Like, what would it take you to move even to an off shift? So, what would it take you to move from first shift to second shift and stay? Right. So,
Okay.
how much of an increase? How much of a shift premium would you need? And then it used to be 50 cents, 75 cents. It's jumped up to like over 250. Oh, in
I
some
mean, that adds up right
so,
there. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, you could see, and again, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if someone asks me the question, I'm going to say more. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's
250
it.
an hour, that's a couple $1,000
Couple
right
thousand
there.
dollars a year, right?
Like,
So, that was always one that came up. But I think the culture of the organizations, how they're treated, whether it be a contingent worker or whether it be a full time employee, like obviously that's a real big thing, especially in manufacturing, right? I mean, some of these roles can get pretty gritty, right? I mean, you're doing some
yeah.
tough environments to work in, whether it be cold storage or whether it be something like that from or hot setting too, right? I mean, so I think the environment of within the organization, like, hey, this just isn't for me. I think the other things is the career development. Like, are you really being trained, or are they just saying that they're going to train you and then 2 years go by, you're still doing the same role and you haven't learned any new skills?
Sometimes it's even overcommit. Hey, you know what? And I'm going to train you for 6 months. And if you exceed your quota or you exceed the expectations in a year after that, I'll guarantee you this seat. And then it's like, you know what? I overcommitted. You just had an employee exceed expectations. And now they're like, well, do I really want to be at this company? They just committed a pay raise and a job change
Yeah, that's tough.
in, 18 months, 24 months. I do everything right. I exceed all my expectations, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, like I overpromised." Like
Yeah, well,
then,
that's yeah, false promises.
and then,
Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah. I mean, it's out there.
Oh, it's definitely out there, and I think that's something that we certainly we say we want people to grow in our roles. Let's
100%.
if you don't want your people to grow, I don't know what you're doing in any leadership role.
I
Okay?
Just
exactly.
how you are.
Yeah,
You know?
sit in your cubicle.
They have to understand like you have to master your role first to really then qualify
Yeah.
for the next role, right? And I'm not saying that's true for every single position, but generally speaking, I think, people expect to, all right, I've been here for a certain period of time. So going back to kind of that temp to hire model, like, oh, just because I've been here for a certain amount of time, I'm entitled to this next promotion or this next role. That's not always the case,
Yeah,
right? If you're doing good in your role and you've been, there all for 6 months and someone's doing good in their role and they've been there for 3 months, yeah, maybe you're going to qualify based on a different situation, but
Mhm.
you might not be doing the job. Yeah. Right. And that's the other thing. Like, so, and you have to create your own opportunities too, right? I mean, you got to say, look, I know that, we need to be performing at X level
Mhm.
to get to Y. And Y opens up new opportunities for other people. We always say in our organization, like, there's roles in our organization that don't even exist yet. Like, there's opportunities that
Oh,
people can do, right? And so again,
1000%.
we're a smaller based company. I mean, mid-size if you could talk about the industry itself, but we're a smaller company, so we're pretty nimble as far as how we can make changes, right? And it doesn't take a lot of red tape to get through it, stuff like that.
It's a lot. And I'm looking back, I'm just kind of listening to you and I'm thinking, wow, over the years, obviously I know you, you're my cousin, but you've been CEO, president of a few other companies. And I'm sitting here, you're explaining all these things. And I know, I mean, you have the 3 boys at home.
Sure do.
Shout out my godchild.
There you go.
And
It's a lot of trust you put in his hands.
oh, hey, man, I'm the best.
He's good.
I give the best Christmas gifts. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Those are my
out that later.
Um, and just going through, I guess, what is the biggest lesson you've kind of learned as a CEO of multiple different companies? And I know we always like to ask this, what are your goals and what are some of the lessons you've learned? Because I guess we'll start with the goals. We always like asking, and I know because you're a driven person, you're always up to something. I remember it was like 5 years ago, I was in college and I came back and he has the same CPA book that I'm saying. I'm like, what are you doing with this? He's like, oh, I'm going to get my CPA. I'm like, aren't you already a president? Like, what more could you be doing? And then it's
Education.
like 3 boys, and I know you and Callie are just nonstop. So like, how do you compartmentalize and set goals for yourself?
So, yeah, you did say it. So first and foremost, my biggest job is to be a husband to Callie
Yeah.
and to be a father to Vince, Nick, and Joe. So
You're good at
that's
that.
the most
I'll give
important
you
job
credit.
that I could
You're
ever
really
have.
good at it.
It's the one I'm most proud of, and it's the one I take most seriously. Saying that, being a CEO, I get the privilege and honor to lead people. I don't see it as like I, I'm trying to say this correctly. I know I don't have to be politically correct here all the time, but it is a privilege and an honor. And if you don't take that as a leader, that you have the honor to lead people because you have the opportunity to develop them into future leaders. And I think that always has to be the goal of any CEO is succession planning in a way, maybe. Talking a little bit about how can I get Johnny, Joe, and Jane to take over my role?
Yeah.
Because as they develop, they're going to develop your customers, they're going to develop, your business, and you're going to grow faster. So what is it? You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go big, go to start something like that. I forgot the exact quote. I read a lot of books too, but no. So one of the things that I think is most important, going to your previous question, I know I'm not answering this directly, so I apologize, but you have to be disciplined. And I think that's the biggest key is to be disciplined and consistent in how you react, right? When I was first starting off at Total, I was very emotional and very, oh my God, this has to get done, or we're not going to do this, or we're not going to do that, or this person needs to go, or this person needs to do better, or something like that. And I was very emotional about it. And I learned quickly not to be so emotional about it. Now, there's a flip side of that. Like, it's my business. Like,
Yeah.
I should be emotional.
You're passionate about it.
Passionate about it, right? But you have to stay even keel. Like, good or bad, stay even keel. And I think that's one of the things that I've started to learn. And to your point, I'm always learning. I think that's a big thing. If people stop
Smart
learning,
is
then
important thing.
something's wrong.
Okay.
So education is a big thing for me. Whether it be self-improvement or learning a new task or something like that. I think this whole AI phenomenon has been phenomenal to learn.
Wild.
And it's been something that I've jumped right into to learn how all these different technologies and how can I fit it into here, or how can I use it to be better here, right? But I think consistency and really discipline is the two biggest factors that I've started to learn as a leader.
It's kind of what we talked about on our last episode. Motivation only gets you so far, but discipline is what matters. I had a great quote last time. I kind of forgetting that last time. Some Mike
Tyson quote.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, I thought you came up with
No, he pulled this thing out of his ass. Like we had a really good conversation and went like this, and it was word for word the exact quote.
Discipline is doing what you love, or discipline is doing what you love, like you hate it, or something like that.
This is where Edgar puts in.
Yes,
the
when he'll clip it and he'll shoot back to the last episode. It'll be great. Thanks,
all right.
Edgar. Discipline. And how discipline is different from motivation. We've talked about it, and like there's a huge difference that Mike Tyson has said, discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. I always love that because discipline
That is
outweighs.
an excellent quote. Right
Yeah,
there.
love that one.
I love that.
And
Repeat that one, Dan.
discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it.
Yeah.
And that's from Mike Tyson. Shout out the GOAT.
But to your point, like you wear it on your sleeves. You're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And as a leader, it's not, hey, I have to be this or I have to. It's, hey, I get to do this. I'm honored and privileged to carry this forward, and I get to train X, Y, and Z, and I get to help X, Y, and Z. And if they become better human beings, then I feel like I've done my duty as a leader.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I get heated. I get emotional still.
Oh,
Now I get emotional with my team together when we're having leadership meetings or something like that. And hopefully my team doesn't take this the wrong way. But when you're out in the field, when you're out in the field, right, you got to maintain composure. You got to maintain confidence. You got to maintain all of that professional decorum, right? To, in my opinion, and I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right all the time. Certainly knows I'm wrong more than I'm right. But keeping that professional decorum is important. You got to show confidence to your team. You got to show confidence in them. And you got to make the decisions that impact not only them, but because that's the biggest problem is leadership, right? Every decision you make impacts the entire company, right? And so every time I have to make a decision, big or small, it doesn't matter.
got the boulder on your shoulder.
Everything, right? So that's a weight. It's lonely at the top. Sometimes it is, but if you have the right team supporting you, it makes it a lot easier.
And fun.
Oh, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. We have a lot of fun. We argue, right? I mean, there should be some healthy conflict.
But that's the best part of having different leaders that have different opinions and different styles, because then it allows you to grow and them to grow and then the organization to grow.
Yeah.
And it's like Dan and I have two completely different leadership styles. We have two different learning styles, but they counterbalance each other. If
Yeah.
we're in a meeting, it's like good cop, bad cop, or vice versa. It's like, okay, let's read the room. How can he help me and how can I help him?
Sure.
You know, at the end of the day, we
And
both
You
want
have
to succeed.
there has
Oh,
been this like
it's
There should be. Yeah, there's not conflict. You're not creating anything.
I mean, we'll go a day and say one word together, and
so
it's just
some of our buddies are
The
like,
whole
oh
grudge.
man.
oh no, there's no. And then the next day, it's
The
like
next day it's over. You know, I've had my buddies like, oh, it must be so much fun working with Griff. I'm like, you know, it's not all just rainbows and sunshine. Like some days
they see this, they see this, they see golf, they see
Yeah.
sporting events. They're like, oh wow, this is great. It's
They don't see the day-to-day grind.
no.
Right.
they don't see us going like, you
You
know,
know what? That's good that they see that, because what you guys project then is saying, yeah, we work well together, we get along well, we actually have the right intentions in mind. They don't need to see the behind the scenes stuff.
No, they don't at all.
You know, I mean, that's for you guys. That's for your teams. You know, however you guys manage
exactly.
your teams.
We pick each other up. The other, the other week, the day didn't go as we wanted it. 8:30 at night, I get a text from him. You know,
That was
it
a good text message.
yeah.
It took me a while to type it, but
I bet it did. It was 4 words.
You wanted to get it right. That's all.
But that's what it's all about. You know, keeping that next day mentality. What they literally ended the little text that he sent with next, and that's always in sales. What we do, it
nah,
has
that's a different text.
next
Okay.
has to be next. You know, so that's what it really is. But I know coming down the stretch here, we just wanted to. Our last question we always ask is, where do you see total talent resources in the next 5 years?
It's a broad question. It could go many different directions, but our focus over the next we have 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plans, right? So that's kind of our objective, right? Our goal is to expand within our existing region. So we have 3 regions that we operate in. We call it Great Lakes, which is anything that touches the Great Lakes, with the exception of Kentucky and Missouri, because they don't touch Great Lakes. I do not know my geography a little bit.
It's all right.
Texas is considered Lone Star. It's its own territory because it's so fucking big.
It's country.
There's so much opportunity out in Texas. So we actually have a region, just Texas.
Yeah.
We call it Lone Star. And then we have the Southeast, which is obviously we started in Florida, and our expansion up probably to about the North Carolina would be the top of that. Over to Tennessee is the Southeast region. So that's really our development over the next 3 years, is to solidify to a revenue number at each of those. We have specific revenue numbers that we want to hit at each of those regions.
Mhm.
Our business is obviously gross profit driven, of course, but revenue is kind of how it's measured, industry standards. So that's really our goal, is to, and it doesn't have to be necessarily brick and mortar offices. You know, again, we talked a little bit about technology, which has allowed us to expand our reach a little bit from a recruitment standpoint, but really to solidify Total as kind of the business partner of choice in those areas.
And I guess one little question I have off that, as you continue to expand, you have multiple locations already, and we kind of touched on it earlier. How do you stay connected to your people? How do you stay connected to your leadership? How do you all continue to have that same vision?
Yeah, really good question, and something that I've struggled with over time. And before I actually started bringing on leadership members, I was just me and a couple of the people that had been there since when I started in 2018, and I realized I can't do this alone. There's no way, right? That takes a lot. I mean,
Well, as guys, you want to do everything yourself. You almost feel
Right.
embarrassed. Hey,
and don't get me wrong, I still have plenty of things that I do on a day-to-day basis that I know I shouldn't be doing. I know I should.
we all do.
And I know that I can trust people on my team to do it. And it's just, I have a tough time letting go. And that was one of the biggest things. Talk about leadership lessons, like letting go of some of the stuff that doesn't drive your business forward.
And trust too. It's
task
who
stuff,
can you
right?
trust?
And it's like, don't let perfection be the enemy of good, man. Like, never.
That's
the quote. That's the quote for the episode.
Don't let the perfection be the enemy of good. No way, because you'll never go anywhere. You'll spend all the time preparing. You'll spend all this time doing this, and then guess what? The action never happens, right? And so again, it's never going to be perfect. Just do it, right? I mean, talk about Nike. We'll give them a shout out. Just do it, but just do it. Honestly, like I've read so many damn books about self-development, leadership, and all this. They're all great. Don't get me wrong. I love reading those types of books, and I still do. But at the end of the day, they all say relatively the same.
They're all the same thing, just different.
You know what?
You got to do the
Put
work.
a plan in place. Don't make it perfect, and do it. You got to execute, and there's a book it's called Execution. I think it was from 1980. If I've read that too, but don't quote me on the title, but I think it's just called Execution. And it says the same things that people are saying now. And it's obviously a little bit more outdated than it's been.
Yeah, but there's a number of books out there that were in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are still really relevant
Sure.
to right now. And that's
Yeah.
where a lot of the content now, it's where everybody got their content from back then, and they're
Yeah.
just rewording it and reinventing it.
Yeah.
And it's
But too often we get tied down to, I need to perfect this process. I need to perfect this process. And then I need to train my team on how to do this. Like, no. Put a process in place.
Yeah.
Train your team on it, and then go execute it with them. Now, don't just tell them to do it if you haven't done it. Right? That goes without saying.
yeah.
But work with them on it. Show them how it's done. Walk through it a little bit with it. And then evaluate after you've given it some time to catch hold. Because a lot of times we put process in place, it didn't work 1 week. Well, guess what? 1 week's not a good time on some of these things, right?
And they say 10,000 hours to perfect something, a practice or reps, 10,000.
But again, the repetitions is the key.
Yeah.
We can get all day to prep it. If we have
Free
5
throws,
reps in it,
yeah.
what are we doing? We're
My
terrible.
golf swing.
So you'll never fix that. That's
No. All right. Joe, we're 35 minutes in. We could probably talk for another 2 hours. But
Yeah, we could
to
a lot.
bear Edgar's editing, I think this has been very informative, and
Yeah.
appreciate the knowledge that you shared with
Thank
us
you.
and the
Cheers.
history of
Cheers,
the
guys.
company.
Thank you.
Yep. Another episode Tequila Talks. There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.